Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we are going to be talking about the HME Adversary, as well as talking about strategies and just a few things that may help you out with the newest Spirit Island Adversary. So, HME Habsburg Mining Expedition. What exactly is this adversary? So, it is a modification of Habsburg livestock. Well, when they were making HME, they looked at Habsburg livestock and felt that that was an adversary that they weren't too happy with the final product, so they wanted to keep that name Habsburg and wanted another shot at it, and that's mining here. So I'm gonna hit go. I'm not actually gonna play this game. I'm just gonna talk us through the different levels of HME and some specifics here. So let's start there. Mountain is that's Explorer, and then let's talk about the adversary here. So HME, what exactly is it? And there we go. Okay, so HME. So level 1. So it says when Blight is added by Ravage actions and it would cascade, instead upgrade one Explorer town before Dahan counterattack. It then has a second level which says lands in 3 or more invaders are mining lands. In mining lands, disease and modifiers to disease affect Ravage actions as though they were build actions. During the build step, build cards cause Ravage actions. This is a lot of text, so let's explain what that is. So a mining land is just, it consists of 3 or more invaders. And as you can see on digital, you're going to see a little mining symbol. These are mining lands. Whenever they would ravage, or whenever they would build in that land during the build step, it is a ravage instead. Disease and modifiers to disease affect ravage actions as though they were build actions. So what does that mean? So this, let's try to find, okay, so this is a good example. So C7, it's a mining land. It's building and it's matching the build card. So normally this would be ravaging. Well, not normally, but because the HME rules, it's ravaging. But since there's a disease, it's not ravaging. The disease will cancel that ravage. What HME level 1 does is it creates a lot of pressure early on, and you're going to notice that with as you increase the difficulty of this adversary. And then obviously, like I mentioned earlier, so this very first part of level 1, it says if they blight, there's no cascades, and instead there's upgrades. So the no cascading is actually it's a pretty big benefit to this adversary, or it's a big benefit to the spirits, because cascades, that can get you killed in a lot of times, but this adversary doesn't cascade. Now, having multiple blight does punish you due to the additional loss condition. Let's talk about that. So it says land stripped bare. At the end of the fast phase, invaders win if any land has at least 8 total invaders / blight combined. That's right. So if you're blighting a lot of times in the same land, that is going to add pieces to the additional loss condition. It's important to point out that this is checking at the end of the fast phase. So if the invaders immediately have 8 invaders in a land or 8 pieces in a land, you still have an entire slow phase as well as the following turn's fast phase to prevent that loss condition. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's an update to Spirit Island and you see a lot of those like England, Scotland, France, LCs end up changing to something like this. So looking at C7 here, this says 1, 2, 3, 4. If there is 4 more pieces in this land, 4 more adversary / blight pieces in A7 or C7, this land would be considered a loss condition land. It's going to be marked over here on this counter, and it's just as a reminder for you to clear that land. That's the loss condition. Level 2, what does this do? This is going to add an additional explorer in each land with no Dahan. And then it also is going to add a city in your townland as well as a disease. And that's what you're going to see here. So typically on board C, this is just a townland. But because of HME, it's going to add a city, an explorer, and a disease. So it adds another inland city. The only other adversary in Spirit Island that adds an inland city is Sweden. So these are the 2 adversaries that can add cities on your inland. In addition, HME is the only adversary that adds a disease. Okay, level 3, Mining Boom. After the build step on each board, choose a land with explorers, upgrade 1 explorer there. I'm going to look at level 5 here. It says Mining Boom 2. Instead of Mining Boom 1, after the build step on each board, choose a land with explorers, build there, then upgrade one explorer. So level 5 just gets, level 3 gets replaced by level 5. And what level 5 is going to do is there's an additional build in that land. So a lot of HME is it's setting up this build upgrade in a land that is advantageous to you because you are upgrading, you're replacing an explorer with a town, and you're causing a build action. So you want to kind of play around this loss condition with this mining boom. Now, I skipped over level 4 because level 4 there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to go straight to level 6 and then we'll go to level 4. So level 6, it says the Empire Ascendant set up and during the Explorer step on boards with 3 or fewer blight. So that means you need 4 blight to turn this off. It says add +1 explorers in each land successfully explored. So successfully explored, that is going to factor your whenever there's an explore card, but it also affects explore actions. So any events that can modify that or cause explore actions is going to affect it's going to affect this event. Not this event. Level 6. Level 6, very important. It's going to start during setup, which means those lands are going to have 3 explorers, which means you're getting a turn 1 ravages. And I'm going to reload this to show you what I mean. But looking at this board, if we had level 6 on, this A1 would have 3 explorers. It's going to be a mining land, which means it's going to be ravaging instead of building. And then there's no disease, so it would just blight in that land. So HME level 6 is going to add a ton of pressure to the adversary. Now, I skipped over level 4, and level 4 is the Salt card. It is a unique invader card that's going to be placed in the invader deck. And it's going to remove the stage 2 coast. So if you're playing against HME, you know there's no coast card. Now, when that card is flipped, it's going to cause explore actions in all non-mining lands. And you can see here, this is the new deck order. It's 1/1/1, 2 Salt. So the Salt card is going to be the 5th card in this deck order. So Salt is going to cause builds in non-mining lands, and then it's going to be put in the Ravage. The following turn, it will move to Ravage. It will stay in the Ravage spot for the rest of the game. And instead, mining lands ravage every turn, regardless if it matches the build card. So every turn, you're going to have a bunch of mining lands ravaging, and that's what that Salt card does. So how this adversary plays out is that the early game, you're trying to manage the early ravages because of level 6 and the build upgrades. Then your board is going to get hit with the Salt card, a ton of lands turn mining, and then at that point, you're trying to turn off as many lands as you can because of that mining rule. Okay, I'm going to close this out. We're going to start a new game here. And we are going to do HME level 6 just so I can showcase that level 6 rule. And let's put Sunshine. We'll put the Dream Team. We got Madness. Once again, I'm not playing this game. We'll put Mud. I don't like Mud. And we'll play Base Memory. Okay. And actually, the whole purpose of this, I wanted to actually put some extra boards out here just to showcase some stuff. Okay. And Madness. There we go. So A, C, and F, level 6. And this is going to help me talk about boards once the explorers happen. So once again, we're playing level 6, and then we have a jungle explorer. Now, because of level 6, there's going to be double explorers in those lands instead. Oh man, here I am setting this up, but I forgot the one board that I wanted. Okay, well, I'll explain why that matters. So level 6. Now you're going to see, like I mentioned earlier, look at G6. There's 3 explorers. It's a mining land. It matches this build card, which means it's going to ravage and blight instead of building. One of the benefits of these instant ravages is they're not accumulating invaders, and it's only 3 explorers, right? So it's easy for you to clean up in later turns. Now, the reason why I wanted to pick these boards is I wanted to showcase something. So Against HME, across the boards, you're going to notice just how the explorers line up. There is a 50-50% chance of getting a turn 1 Ravage if you're playing HME 6. So look at board F, for instance. If we would have gotten a mountain or wetland, both of these lands would have had 3 explorers, which would have been a turn 1 Ravage. If we got sands or jungle, we would not be getting a turn 1 Ravage because of just how the board is laid out. 6 out of the 8 boards, that is what happens. There is a 50% chance of a turn 1 Ravage. Let's look at board G, for instance. The turn 1 Ravages would have been jungle and sands, while mountain and wetland were safe. So we're getting the turn 1 Ravage here. Let's look at board C. Turn 1 Ravages would have been jungle or wetland, and we did, so we're getting the turn 1 Ravage. Now board A is unique because of how the Dahan are placed. I believe it's because there's a Dahan in A2. It messes with the starting explorer from from level 2 roll, which means board A, there's a 75% chance of a turn 1 Ravage. And it's funny, we ended up getting the 25% here and because we got jungle. But if it was sands, wetland, or mountain, we would have gotten a turn 1 Ravage on this board. There's one more board that is different, and you don't see it here because I forgot it, and that is board D. Everybody loves board D, so I'm going to put it up here. Might as well. HME. Let's put level 6, we'll pick mud, and we got to make sure we have board D here. Board D, there is a 100% chance of getting a turn 1 Ravage. And that is because not only is there that Dahan in land D2, but the Dahan also line up in your other building lands. So I believe since the Dahan are in these starting setup symbol lands, that's why it ends up like this. But as you can see, wetland, sands, jungle, and mountain, you're always getting a turn 1 Ravage against HME 6. Some spirits like that, especially if you have counterattacks like Hearth Vigil, is going to love board D because Hearth Vigil is able to just get Dahan there, get an easy counterattack. You're okay with the Blight because your Dahan are essentially immortal. And you're just going to keep the invader count low. Other spirits are not going to want that. So just something to keep in mind. So board D can get those turn 1 Ravages, and that's the whole point of that I'm trying to push here. And now since I'm playing a higher level HME, we also have the Salt card in here. And you can see the Salt card is labeled right over here. When this comes up, this is going to explore all non-mining lands. And then they will build all non-mining lands. So some of the things that you can do to play around the Salt card, oh, you can even click it and see what it says. A lot of times what I like to do with the Salt card is I like to set up lands that are mining into the Salt card. So if I have control tools, I will push explorers, I will group up invaders into mining lands. Once again, mining lands are lands with 3 or more invaders, such that they don't explore when the Salt card comes up. In addition, they're not going to build in those lands because they are mining. So the trick here is you want to make a bunch of mining lands when this card is exploring and building, and then once it's ravaging, you want to disperse those lands because now they're no longer mining lands, which means they're not going to be ravaging with this card. With this specific adversary, the most important turn is actually this stage 2 card. This stage 2 card dictates a lot of how this game is going to be played. If it matches one of these early stage 1s, I mean, that could be good or bad depending on the board state. But what's really important, though, is because you know that stage 2 comes up, if you clear this land type, this stage 2 land type, it's going to explore here. That's okay. It might build, but then that's it. There's only going to be 2 invaders, assuming you clear those lands properly, and then you can kind of just ignore it for the next 2 turns. Now, there's one other thing that I forgot to mention, and that is the escalation. So the escalation is mining tunnels. It says after advancing invader cards on each board, explore in the 2 lands whose terrain doesn't match a ravage or build card. So this is a way to just add extra explorers. Whenever I'm doing this escalation, I'm doing exactly like I mentioned. I'm trying to create mining lands, especially right at this point right here, because I know the Salt card is coming. So I want to make other land types that haven't come up in mining lands. And you'll see in a lot of my HME games, I'll set up the board such that I'm trying to minimize the pain from that explorer. And hopefully that makes a lot of sense because a lot of HME is just managing that salt card and when that card comes up. Okay, so let's look at some minors and some powerful tools. So defensive cards are pretty powerful into this adversary because this adversary is adding a lot of smaller ravages, especially early on. Look at board D4 here. This is only 3 damage, but it's a ravage. If I could get an easy defend, like Call to Guard requires 2 Dahan, but like if I can get an easy defend action, like maybe Drift Down, I could defend this land, and that stops the Ravage Blight, and then there's still going to be 3 Explorers, so I can go and clear that land the following turn in a counterattack, or I can get Dahan right now, and I can just kill in the counterattack. So Dahan defense effects are very powerful against this adversary. Another thing that is pretty powerful is Disease. So Disease acts as a Ravage skip in mining lands, okay? So once again, just looking here, we have sands that came up. It's a mining land, so it would be ravaging, but there's a disease. So cards that add disease are actually pretty powerful into this adversary because it's essentially a ravage skip. If you guys watch my 6-6 series, you're going to see when I was playing, I think it's the final matchup in the series, I'm playing Wind Lightning, and I end up finding Flesh Rot Fever, if I can find it, as I'm like looking. Oh, here it is, Flesh Rot Fever, which is a perfect element card, right, on Lightning. It's amazing. But what made it so powerful, it was a fast disease, which essentially is a Ravage skip on Reclaim. So every turn I'm throwing this card down, I'm like, skip Ravage for 1 energy, skip Ravage for 1 energy. So these cards that are a little bit on the weaker end, like a lot of these disease cards tend to not see much play, unless it's on element, but into HME, there's a lot more value because it is a Ravage skip. Now that goes both ways. I really wish I could see events here. Let me see if I can go back. I go to maybe card library. Does that work? Other cards? Yeah, here we go. So that goes both ways because now if I have a card that adds disease, right? So like this event card. If you look at the disease event, it adds a disease, which is essentially a Ravage skip. That's amazing. But when is it not amazing? It's not amazing when you get a card like this, Urban Development. Lingering Plagues, add a disease. Oh, that's great. And it says disease doesn't permit build actions or builds this invader phase. So that means your disease is not actually acting as a skip card. So a lot of players, it's a big complaint into HMA because if you're playing around disease, any of these disease ignore cards just completely, can completely screw you. Now we also have these Strickens. Strickens are like golden into HMA because it keeps the strife around and it skips the land. So if you get Stricken, it's essentially a double skip, a double Ravage skip. Because like in that example earlier that I was mentioning here, let's back up, let's resume. Like in this matchup, right? If your first event is Stricken, well, it's the second event. Let's say this is Build Ravaging. Stricken would stop this Ravage, the disease stays, the sands moves over, it's still a mining land. When it ravages in this mining land spot, the disease is just going to cancel the Ravage. So a Stricken essentially cancels the land twice. So like I just mentioned, if there is a mining land in the Ravage spot and there's a disease, the disease will cancel it. Now, if the land is non-mining with the disease, it will ravage as normal. And that's something that a lot of people, it's not intuitive until it happens to you. But for instance, if this jungle had an explorer and a town and a disease and it was ravaging, it would ravage as normal and a blight would come down. So that's something to keep in mind. It's another reason why a lot of people, they complain about HMA, and that's because events really can screw you guys. Just because like not only can you get screwed by like that disease ignore, but like if you have extra like anything that moves invaders around can really mess with it, because maybe you have a land that's ravaging and you planned around it and then an invader gets moved out and now it's no longer mining, now it's building, and then a different land is mining and now that land is ravaging, and that can be quite annoying. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here. Stricken's nice. Let's see. Let's go back here. So we talked about miners. Is there any other things I want to mention? So the last thing I want to mention here is just a macro strategy against HME. So once again, early game, you're trying to manage those early ravages, trying to take up to the 4 blight to turn off level 6, using your build upgrades in specific lands to either create mining lands for that salt card or to make just a big built-up land that you can just kill and remove. You're then planning to set up a bunch of mining lands into the Explorer as well as into the build. And then during the Salt Ravage, you want to turn off those mining lands. Typically, this adversary ends right around. So I actually, when I was playtesting, I had playtested this adversary without this stage 2 card here, like just completely removed. And I found that the adversary difficulty was pretty much identical, which meant to me that the critical, the flex point was right here. It's like these 2 to 3 cards. So it's like what your turn 4, 5, and 6. Like after turn 6, the game should be 1, assuming you don't just get completely edge cased and all of that nonsense. And I also want to mention, let's go to new game so I can look at the different spirits. So some spirits that are very powerful into this adversary. I really like, where is he? Eyes. Eyes is really strong because they have a lot of defensive tools into this adversary. They also get that defend 2, turn 1. So if you really want, you can defend and take out that mining land. Also, I don't have it here, but Hearth Vigil I find to be very powerful into HME as well, just because you have those easy down counterattacks. I also like Ocean. I noticed on the channel, Deeps felt very good into the matchup. Maybe just because I didn't get edge cased, but it just felt very powerful. I believe Serpent is pretty nice. Like Elemental Aegis, this is a defend, like an AoE defend 2, defend 3. And HME has just a bunch of smaller lands that you could just constantly defend. I bet Bedevil's pretty good with many mines. So having that defend 1 per presence can be pretty powerful, especially if you have 2 presence in a land, being able to defend lands like that. I believe Keeper is a bit tricky. Wilds is nice into this matchup, but Keeper is just a little bit too slow, and I find that sometimes HME can kind of get under you and really wreak havoc. Okay, well, if this video helped you, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.